So Bernadette, I got a couple questions before we jump into the podcast interview. Rapid fire, so
Got it.
whatever comes to mind, do it. All right, so you're a millennial, just like
Yes.
I am.
Mm-hmm.
We were talking about being a millennial, and how I kind of, feel sometimes good and maybe a little older
Yeah.
than we think. Your favorite 90s trend?
Oh my God, so many. Rapid fire. We were just talking about Lisa Frank, so I'll
Yes.
go with stickers and stationery and collecting all the collectibles.
Okay,
Yep.
okay. You have been everywhere. You're a world traveler. Give us your favorite recent place that you visit.
Oh, we just came back from Madrid, and we think we want to move there now.
Really? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of the few places I want to go. So I have to.
Highly recommend. I love it.
Nice, nice.
Mm-hmm.
And karaoke. I've seen you talk about karaoke.
Man,
So,
you really did your research. I was not expecting this. Okay, yeah.
favorite karaoke song to perform?
Okay, depending. Okay, this is not a rapid fire, but depending on who the crowd is.
Okay.
So if it's like an older crowd, Gloria Gaynor, I Will Survive. If
Nice.
it is like a millennial crowd, anything TLC, or I'll do Brandy and Monica, The Boy Is Mine.
Okay.
If it is like a newer crowd, Taylor Swift, because like everyone knows, the younger kids all know Taylor Swift.
All right. I love it. I love it. So, thank you for participating in our rapid fire. And now it's time for the interview. What's going on, y'all? Welcome to the Financial Seeds podcast, where we believe that financial freedom is built one conversation at a time. I'm your host, JimDre Westbrook, and every week we are here to empower families to go from striving to thriving by having smart, practical money talks. Today's episode is a very special episode. We're going to talk about something I believe all of us want to do in life, and that is to crush our money goals. Whether you're saving for your first home or trying to figure out how you're going to pay your kids through college, we have the best person, I believe, on the planet to help us with that discussion. She is a best selling author, a money expert, and probably one of the coolest people that I know on earth. We have no other than Bernadette Joy here to talk about how to crush our money goals and whatever else she wants to talk about. So, welcome to the podcast, Bernadette
Oh
Joy.
my gosh, what an intro. I feel a little pressure here, but also if you said I can talk about whatever, you're going to feel sorry about that.
Well, again, we thank you for being here. This is an honor, not just myself, but for everybody out there. If you don't know who she is, which you should already know, you are going to become a fan of her. Uh, just a very gifted person, very
Aw.
knowledgeable person. So we're going to have some fun. So
Aw.
again, thank you for being here with us.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for looking so fabulous. I was just saying that navy blue is my favorite color.
I appreciate. I knew you were going to be very colorful, so I was like, "Hey, I got to step my game up." Put little flowers on, and
I appreciate that.
we're going to have some fun with this. So I want to jump straight into it.
Mm-hmm.
You have been known to be debt free. You are just someone that over $300,000 of paying down debt. When it
Mm-hmm.
comes to that average consumer debt, most of us have over $100,000.
Yes.
The
Yes.
fact that you had triple of that, let's just talk us through like what did that season of life just look like,
Mm-hmm.
and how did you do
Yes, it was really stressful.
it?
It literally felt like I had a weight on my chest some
Hmm.
days,
Hmm.
and that's really what got me motivated to pay it off was that I just didn't want to feel that way anymore.
Yeah.
And especially as a first gen Filipino American, there was a lot of talk on how to make money and how to save money, but there was zero talk about how to manage debt and how to invest. And so for the first 10, 15 years of my adult life, like I thought something must not be right because I'm doing everything my parents told me to do. I got a good job, I went to college, was very stereotypically like good at my good at my studies and stuff. And then I was just like, so why do I feel this way? Like, why do I feel like I'm still failing?
Hmm.
And so it was a really stressful time, and it was also the time. So this was now uh almost 10 years ago. It feels like a lifetime ago where during that time, like HGTV was really
Yep.
big, and everyone's like house hacking. And, the way that you build wealth is try to build a mini real estate empire. And so I had student loans. We had, all of the regular bills that people have, credit cards and stuff. And then I also was just like, oh, you know what I'll do on top of my day job and going to school and all this stuff? Like, I should house hack. And so I was doing like 5 jobs at one time. And I thought
Mm.
like hustling my way to financial independence was the way to go. And I realized very quickly that wasn't it.
Yeah, yeah, no, you take me back with just a lot of stuff when I was kind of on that similar journey and trying to do all of the things, and that may not be the best way to do it.
Mm-mm.
So let's talk about that turning point. What was
Yes.
the tipping point where you just decided, yo, I'm not doing this anymore? Like, I'm not living my life like this. Something's got to change.
Yes. So I remember it very distinctly. It was January of 2016, where I was in my last semester of my MBA program, and I had been working at the same time. And so I had been making, payments along the way for my MBA program. And so I was sitting in my last class. This was before Zoom was a thing. So I was doing an online program, but we were on some other weird platform.
Mm,
And I remember, my professor was talking and it was something really boring and I wasn't paying attention. And so I was thinking, I'm like, wow, I only have 10 weeks left before I graduate. I'm curious how much I have left in my student loans.
hmm
Let me go check. And so I went to go check my balance and realized I had $72,000 in student loans. And I was thinking, wait a minute, but I've been making payments all this. How much is this program? And this is already, after I'm almost on my way out.
Yep.
And so I tell people all the time, I wish that I could find the recording of this class because imagine, a Zoom meeting with all the little boxes.
hmm
You probably saw Bernadette just like slipping off of the box and like crying under the table because I literally started freaking out
Yeah.
during class and then thinking, oh my gosh, wait, people can see me. And so I started pretending that I was looking for something under the table and just having a total meltdown.
Yep.
So the reason I say that was such a turning point was because I thought the MBA was going to be the silver bullet for
hmm
me. Like, oh, getting a master's degree is going to help me build my career or whatever, but I had no plan on how to pay off that student loan
mm
debt. So that same day, my husband was sitting in his office after class, and I went over to him and I said, wow, I think I used a different word, but I said, I really messed things up right now. I didn't realize I had this much debt.
Yeah.
And interestingly, my husband, if you ever meet him, you've met him before,
hmm
he is such a chill
Oh yeah.
person
Oh yeah.
that he was like, well, all of our friends have student loan debt. All of our friends have credit card debt. Like, it's not that big of a deal.
hmm
And I was like, oh, no, 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 sir. This is a big deal and we're not going to be like everybody else. And that was their turning point.
Okay, and I love that. Shout out to AJ.
Shout out to AJ.
And yeah, because I could see me in that same way, probably saying the very same thing. And my wife, Tiffany, would be just like you, like, no, we're going to be different.
Mm-mm.
We don't want that in our household. So let's talk about that. If you are that person that wants to be like you and says, I don't really know what to do, what are some of those very first steps that they can take if they feel overwhelmed by debt?
Yes. So my advice is different than it has been the last couple of years in the sense of, there's so many different types of resources now than there was 10 years ago. So
hmm
10 years ago, the only thing that happened when I Googled how to pay off debt was Dave Ramsey. Like that was the
Yeah,
only thing that showed up.
yeah.
And so nowadays I think there are so many diverse people who have different perspectives. I mean, part of the reason I wrote the book was because I wanted a book that reflected, more similar experiences to
hmm
someone as from an immigrant family, from someone who is a younger female, all of that. So my first recommendation to folks is what I tell all of my clients, which is to get all of your accounts together first and
hmm
just look at the total picture.
Yep.
Because a lot of people will focus on just a credit card debt or just a student loan debt, but not realize, oh, maybe I have some money sitting in a brokerage account somewhere that I don't really
hmm
know what's going on over there.
hmm
Or maybe I have some cash savings that I can use to pay down the debt. So Crush Your Money Goals, the acronym CRUSH spells out the steps that I ask people to do. And the C stands for curate your accounts, which is to just find every single account that has your name on it. So your credit cards, your student loans, your car note, your mortgage, and then all of the assets that you own, like your investment accounts and your cash accounts, and get it into one place. I use an app that's called Monarch Money, but there's plenty of other tools that people can use, and a lot
hmm
of financial institutions have their own versions of that. But what I find is that a lot of people focus on kind of one area. It's kind of playing like whack-a-mole.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, let me put money into my 401k and also into crypto and also into my
Hmm.
student loans and also try to pay a little extra towards my kids' college. And it's just
Yep.
like, no, 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 that's too much. So get everything into one place first and see what you've got before you make a plan.
I love it. I love it. We're really gonna dive deep into that whole crush
Mm.
acronym. Just want to show people, for those that did not see, this is exactly what we're going to cover. And if you do not have, we'll give you time afterwards to kind
Yeah.
of talk about this. But I just want to show for everybody who is actually watching us to see what we're talking about.
Yeah.
So, one of the things I've recently heard you say, actually today saw you post about it. I want to talk about the difference between financial literacy
Ooh.
and financial fluency.
Yes.
This is something that I'm already talking about with my team and with the community by doing different workshops. But I really want you to, kind of break that down on how you feel about financial literacy and where we might need to go when it comes to financial fluency and becoming financially free.
Okay, so I did not realize that this was going to become like a controversial topic. I had posted this article a couple of weeks ago. I write for another publication, and I wrote the title was "Financial Literacy is Dead,"
Mhm.
and so I could see why that might make some financial educators a little bit angry, right? And so
Sure.
if you actually read the article, what I say in the article is, financial literacy, in my opinion, from what I've seen and working with a lot of other institutions and stuff, is that we are essentially teaching people to play in a system that is not working for us. So, for example, I'll give you an example of a lot of financial literacy focuses on credit scores
Hmm.
versus focusing on total net worth, as
Sure.
an example, right? And so when I talk about financial fluency, what I'm trying to really get people towards is to say, hey, if you want to be really good at your finances, aim for financial freedom.
Hmm.
And then the worst case scenario is you're going to be financially literate.
Yeah.
If you just aim for financial literacy, then yeah, you might know the things to do, but are you actually doing it?
Hmm.
So I started using the term financial fluency to explain what it is that I do and differentiate from other kind of financial education programs. Where financial fluency to me, I teach learning finances more like a language than
Hmm.
math. Because
Yep.
a lot of people think learning finances is like there's a right answer and there's a wrong answer. Versus, like, if anyone who's ever spoken another language, you learn that the best way to learn a language is to actually practice it in real time, get out into the world
Hmm.
with people. Like, you're gonna sound stupid when you do it, and a lot of people avoid doing the work that needs to be done in their finances because they're afraid they're gonna look stupid.
Yep.
So I've learned um that analogy of fluency in language has resonated with a lot of my audience because also a lot of my audience come from immigrant families, come
Hmm.
from um uh places where they want to move to other countries and stuff. So the idea of like, oh, financial what I need to know about my finances is more like learning a language. It
Hmm.
feels less like, oh, I'm dumb. I'm not dumb if I don't know how to do this stuff.
Yeah.
And specifically, what we're finding is that uh, especially in the age of ChatGPT and AI and stuff, like, yeah, you can just put into ChatGPT, what am I supposed to do with my finances?
Hmm.
Are you going to do it?
Right.
Is another question.
Oh
That's
yeah.
why financial fluency has resonated a lot with my clients because part of fluency is like you have to go and practice and have one conversation at a time.
Yeah. No, I loved it. The moment that you brought that up, I'm like, see, that's what I'm talking about. Like,
Hmm.
literacy, great. But if we can take it to that next level and you're speaking it like a language, you understand that, you communicate that. And then that last step about being financially free, you're living that because that's the
Hmm.
destination. Like you said, we all want that. But I love bringing that fluency piece into it. I think it takes it to the next level.
Thank you. And I would say about the fluency aspect also, like the emphasis on practicing often. Again, part of why I was so excited to come to the podcast today is, having these conversations one at a time.
Yep.
A lot of my clients, what I learned is that, especially with what y'all do of like meeting people at different life stages,
Hmm.
is that at every life stage, like you can't do that alone.
Nope.
And I see a lot of people in their finances trying to conquer their debt by themselves or
Yep.
trying to put their kids through their college by themselves or try
Yep.
to figure out their retirement plan by themselves. And so the idea of fluency is that this is also like a team effort. Like
Hmm.
what's the point of learning language if you ain't going to talk to anybody?
Yeah. Straight up.
So that's the same thing with finances for me.
I love it. I love it. I want to talk about overcoming limiting beliefs.
Ew.
In your book, you talk a lot about mental roadblocks and how
Mm-hmm.
people have them around money. So, what are just some common ones that you see when you are out talking to
Mm-hmm.
folks?
Mm-hmm. So I will say this is selfishly for me to have my own therapy session with you now is that one thing that I'm working on even for myself is this idea that a stable income is the path to wealth.
Mm,
And usually like an earned income
yep.
versus how do you build the total assets and potentially passive income and income from investments and stuff to really sustain you. And so it's been interesting to me where I've had several clients this past year who we've done the really hard work. We've cleared out all their debt. We've saved up their money to set aside for quote unquote rainy day and all that stuff. And then the
Hmm.
rainy day comes, like i.e. they get laid off from a job and they're having a total panic attack about it.
Yeah.
Um, and I have to remind them, like, look, we have the savings. We know what our monthly expenses are.
Yep.
Like, we've got runway for months right
Hmm.
now. Um, but I understand that a lot of the people that I coach, like, they came from living paycheck to paycheck, growing up in households that were paycheck to paycheck. I even know I have a lot of clients who are earning six figures and still living paycheck to paycheck. So the limiting belief here, right, is that, oh, well, I'll be safe as long as I have a paycheck. So when I don't have a paycheck anymore,
Hmm.
I'm not safe anymore. And the reason I'm saying this is my therapy session today is because I made a really big choice this past month to take the next 90 days off from coaching.
Okay.
Meaning, like, I told all my 50 plus clients and saying, hey, I'm going to take a little break from September to November because I got some life stuff to do.
Hmm.
And also, it's going to give me a chance to reset and come back as a better coach because I haven't stopped coaching for years,
Mm.
like no break ever. And so this month is my first month where I don't have like revenue coming in.
Okay.
And I'm having a panic. I literally was panicking to my husband yesterday. We're buying some new furniture. I'm like, we can't afford this. What are we doing here? And then I'm like, wait a minute, but I have enough savings
Yep.
that and I have uh dividends coming from my investments and stuff. And I'm like, so why am I panicking? Oh, it's because I'm still conditioned from 3 decades of
Yeah.
working that, oh, if I don't have a paycheck coming in, that I'm not okay.
I love it. I love that this is your therapy session, and I'm sure that there are many other folks like that, especially because money is very emotional. We've
Mm-hmm.
talked about that on the pod before, and we all are there. Like I said, an expert still having some of that emotions behind that.
Mm-hmm.
So when we talk about your mindset, like
Yes.
how did that shift from debt is normal to like no, debt is not my destiny? Like, talk to us about that.
Okay, I haven't shared this story. I think you might be the first podcast that I'll share the story on. So, I bought into the whole debt free,
Hmm.
kind of lifestyle a couple of years ago. But in 2020, so during the pandemic, my husband and we had already paid off our home. We actually paid off two homes by that. So that
Nice.
$300,000 of debt
Yep.
was one of those properties,
Okay.
and then we were able to save up and pay off our primary residence. But it was a pandemic. We didn't know how long it was going to be. And so we decided that we wanted to buy a place in Asheville, North Carolina, which was about 2.5 hours away from where we live to get some fresh air.
Hmm.
And so we found a um, 2 bedroom, 2 bathroom, condo, well within our budget, price range, all of that stuff. And I went to go get a mortgage for it. And I kept getting denied.
Mm.
I got denied 3 times from 3 different places.
Wow.
And you know why I got denied? It was because I didn't have a credit score at the time because I had no debt. I hadn't had debt
Yeah.
for a couple of years at that point.
Yeah.
And so I know this is going to make me sound like a total Karen, but by the 4th one, I was like, hey, can you just Google my name here? Because I promise you I will pay this money back.
Yeah.
Like, I promise you, like, I am not an issue with the
Yeah.
mortgage. And so it was interesting because the person, the customer service person on the phone, I said, can you just turn over to page 2 of my credit report? Like, the first thing it says, no credit score,
Mhm.
right? And they're like, well, we can't give you a mortgage because you don't have a credit score. I'm like, if you go to page 2, you will see I have all of these accounts that have been paid
Yep.
off, including 2 mortgages.
Yeah.
So why am I getting denied here? And he's just like, this is a great question. I don't know either. This makes no sense. So I eventually had to get my mortgage underwritten manually, which means that they sent me an actual survey saying, like, tell me everything about you. Tell me about what you do.
Mm.
Like, tell me, like, who you are, all these other things. I'm like, and actually, that's how a mortgage should be written. Like you should know who the person is that's
Sure.
doing it. And and then got my 15-year mortgage on that, and I paid it off in two. uh, and I'm sitting here, and so that was really like a light bulb moment of just like, wow, all these things that we're taught about credit scores, it's really to keep you borrowing versus, hey, like let's actually look at the total picture here. And so ever since then, I was like, ooh, I've got a lot to teach people about like credit score. And it's not to say that credit score isn't a tool,
Right.
but it shouldn't be the only tool that
Sure.
we use.
Most definitely. And I love how you talked about living paycheck to paycheck for that family who feels that they're just stuck in that cycle of overspending or living paycheck to paycheck. What are some of the things you would encourage them to kind of do or not do?
So I didn't think that this was like a new idea, but then I've gotten a lot of feedback from other financial experts that they haven't really heard anyone talk about this before. So in the book, one of the habits I tell people to do is called the cash flow cushion. And so what I tell people to do is add up your 5 basic living expenses. So your housing, which is your mortgage or your rent, your utilities, your transportation, so like your car payment, or if you live in New York City, like your Metro card or whatever, your food. I don't care if you eat out. Like this is not a conversation about DoorDash or whatever. However much you spend on food is how much you spend on food in a month. And then your health expenses, which I always tell people therapy is a mandatory for a lot of my clients. So those 5 basic categories, you add that up for what for last month. So let's say we're in September now and it's August. You add those all up, and that is your goal of how much to save for 1 month's worth of what I call my cash flow cushion. But like, what's the trick here is a lot of people say put that in a high yield savings account or put that into like any kind of savings account or whatever
Hmm.
as an emergency fund. But the reason I call it a cash flow cushion is that you leave it in your checking account, and that's kind of like your new baseline for what you should try to make sure that every month when you do your budget that you're starting out with that baseline. And
Gotcha.
so the reason I say that is because a lot of people don't budget well or are still paying a lot of their bills manually and putting themselves in the mindset of paycheck to paycheck
Hmm.
versus saying, okay, like if I have the amount that's going to run my lifestyle for 1 month, and then when my paychecks come in, they just backfill
Hmm.
that money, then my brain can say, oh, you're safe.
Yep.
You're going to be okay. And then you can actually focus on higher, more strategic decisions in your budgeting, like, how much am I going to pay down in my debt this month?
Hmm.
How much am I going to put into my emergency savings? How much am I going to put into my investments? But what I found is that a lot of families, specifically who are living paycheck to paycheck, they're reinforcing the idea that they're broke
Yeah.
by still letting their checking account go to zero every month.
Hmm. Yeah. And that could be a traumatizing thing because
Mm-hmm.
I know I've been there
Oh,
before.
yeah, I've been there
And,
too. Yeah.
and nobody wants to see that. But like you said, if you throw some automation in there and have that cushion there, game changer.
Mm-hmm. And then what I see though is a lot of people do the automation without the cushion, and then something happens unexpectedly, and then they get hit with like a fee or
Yep.
whatever it is, and then they're like, oh, this whole thing doesn't work. Budgeting doesn't work. It's like, no, actually, budgeting is great, but you need the foundation for the budgeting to work.
Yeah, most definitely. So for families out there, we just want to make sure that money just isn't math. It's also that mindset that we're talking about. So if you don't address those emotions, those numbers essentially will never add up. So we
Mm-hmm.
want you to put that foundation, automation, but then also that principle, that action behind it, so you will be good. All right. I love what we're doing. We're crushing goals.
Yeah.
We're crushing the game. I want to move a little bit more into the book
Mm-hmm.
uh, with the crush system that you've built.
Yeah.
It is simple and effective. What are some maybe 2 or 3 practical steps that families can start taking now by crushing their goals today?
Okay, so the book is structured to have CRUSH, and then each one has 5 habits. So there's 25 habits in total. So we won't talk about all 25 habits. Uh, One of my favorite ones that has been getting a lot of traction that people were surprised about, I actually even had to argue with my publisher about having this in the book, is a habit that I call Screenless Sundays. And I love this for families, is that basically it is exactly what it sounds like. You tell the whole family, hey, we're all in this household together, right? So like we don't need the phones because who's going to be calling us today? And so we're going to put away the phones, put away the little iPads, and I call it like get rid of your baby screens and your mini screens, and then your medium screens and your large screens. and like pretend like it's the 1980s again and just go live your life in the real world, right? And so why I had to argue with my publisher about keeping this in the book, they said, what does it have to do with money? And I said, do you not know how many clients I have and kids I know who are spending money on things because they saw this thing on Instagram or they want to get this thing on Roblox
Yep.
or, they saw this thing I watch a lot of K-dramas and there's always product placements. And so I'm like, I'm always buying stuff that I don't need, right?
Yep.
So what I also learned is that Screenless Sundays is a great time for you to do the meal prep. It's
Yeah.
a great time for you to sit down with the family and do the budget.
Yep.
It's a great time to reset the house and make sure that it's not so messy. And it turns out when you're not on screens all day, time goes by very slowly. So whenever AJ and I do these Screenless Sundays, we're like, we've already gone to Costco, we've already done all this stuff, and we're like, it's only 12 o'clock. Like, we got so much time, And so I love Screenless Sundays as a thing that a family can do together. And then another thing I suggest for families to do, I call it the 5% cashback rule. So you know how like a lot of credit cards will give you 5% cash back and
Yep.
people are like, oh, what about the points? But if you're someone who's working on debt freedom, I really try to get people to wean off of credit cards and focus on paying for things, paying your credit cards in full every week, not just every month. So one of the things that I love for families, especially if you've got kids and stuff, is that, one of my families, they were working on paying down the mom and dad student loans. And so it became a whole family affair. And so they had one of those like big
Nice.
thermometers,
Yeah.
And so they put, every $10,000 that they paid off. And so the kids, they started hounding their mom, like, did you pay your loans? Because we want to celebrate too. Because every
Yep.
time it was $10,000, they got 5%
Nice.
back, right? So if it's $10,000, the family has $500 to spend on whatever. I mean, that's a nice, going to the theme park, like
Yep.
that's a big pizza party. That's a lot of pizza,
Yeah.
right? So it gets the whole family involved in that. And what I love about that 5% is that we can pay ourselves back. We don't have to make the bank do it for us.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. We've talked on the pod before, including the entire family. Like, it just isn't, mom and dad taking care of their debt, like getting the family excited about being debt free, putting the kids, they need to see that. Because if
Yes.
they don't see that, they don't care. But if
Mm-hmm.
you make them a part of it, kind of that team thing you were talking about earlier, everybody is in on the fun. Everybody gets to, enjoy the fruits of your labor, going to that theme park, having a nice dinner, pizza party, whatever it is. I love getting the family all involved.
Mm-hmm. And I will say that I really have to tell a lot of my clients who are parents that we're actually really underestimating how much our kids understand.
Yeah.
And so I recently, I want to tell this quick story just because I think it's funny, is you said I could talk about whatever I want. So I taught this summer camp of girls and I'm teaching them budgeting, and also, first of all, they were telling me all the things that their parents do, and I was like, okay, maybe you don't, maybe don't put your parents on blast today. And so, but they're observing everything that their parents are doing.
Yeah.
And I asked them questions like, what is a mortgage? What is budget? They knew all the answers.
Nice.
They were better than my adult classes, and these are
Really?
like 10 to like 15-year-olds. And so one of the things that I talk about in that class is, what is your dream? What are you, the point of making money is so you can live your dreams.
Yep.
And I'm trying to change this next generation to say the point of making money isn't just to, continue to contribute to capitalism and, just grind all day. It's like
Yep.
to actually go do things you want to do. And one girl goes, I want to be a doctor, but I'm scared of the student loans. And so this is like a 13-year-old. So she knows
Yeah.
about student loans already at 13. And she said, but I know that that's just me not having limiting beliefs and not having a growth mindset. This is a 13-year-old, y'all. And I was like, who is
Wow.
your coach? Because, like that is amazing. And
Oh,
so
yeah.
a lot of times I see parents shielding their kids from these conversations because they don't want to stress them out, or maybe
Yep.
they feel embarrassed or whatever it is. But these kids are going to learn it one way or another. So it might as well be from you.
Yeah, no, I love that, and shout out to her. Like you said, we need to get her information, and
I know. I was like, you need a scholarship? I feel like you're going to go places.
most dev. I love it. I love it.
The Financial Seeds podcast is powered by Silver State Schools Credit Union. At Silver State Schools Credit Union, our focus is to provide excellent member service and financial solutions for life. Now is the perfect time to lock in lower payments and more savings with SSSCU's new even lower vehicle loan rates, now starting at just 4.99% annual percentage rate. That's 4.99% APR, available for both purchases and refinancing. Members can drive more and pay less with SSSCU's new lower rate of 4.99% APR. Visit silverstatecu.com/drive to learn more and experience why Silver State Schools Credit Union is banking done better. Silver State Schools Credit Union finances up to 100% of MSRP for new vehicles or the Kelley Blue Book retail value for used vehicles. Additional terms and conditions to qualify. May not be combined with other offers. Rates, terms, and conditions are subject to change without notice. Must be a member to apply. Visit silverstatecu.com for more details.
So, Bernadette, before we wrap this thing up, I would love for you to share one powerful tip from your journey. Maybe something that you haven't disclosed yet, maybe something that's deeper in the book, or maybe this is something for the next book. Like, what is something that you can give our listeners to start doing this week to move closer to their money goal?
Ew. Okay. This is another one that I had to explain to my publisher about why this is in the book, but it is so tied in with the money goals. So in the book, I talk about releasing your energy vampires and really getting a control of your calendar. And so I say that because so many people say to me, oh, I didn't do my budget because I didn't have time. I didn't work on my finances because I didn't have time. I didn't make that phone call to, get rates because I didn't have time. So then the question then becomes, well, why don't you have time?
Yeah.
Right. And so I specifically, again, a lot of my audience are families, so working busy parents. And I'm finding that a lot of people are saying yes to things that they are really not serving them. So this sounds, very obvious, but what I do with a lot of my clients when I coach them is actually audit their calendars, and I question everything on their calendar.
Yeah.
Do you really got to be there? This is really have to be a meeting? Can it be an email?
Mhm.
Even if it's a Zoom, can it be a phone call so that you can also be running errands or whatever it is? And so just by doing that one exercise, I'm usually able to find anywhere from like 5 to 10 hours a week to free up. And then I'm like, hey, you ain't got no excuse now
Right.
to go look at your finances. But the other aspect of that is then you have to replace those meetings that are no longer serving you, or that time that's no longer serving you, and fill it with 1 to 2 hours a week to focus on financial stuff.
Yeah.
That's not a lot of time in the grand scheme of things,
Sure.
right? We got 24 hours a day times 7 days a week, 1 to 2 hours a week. Eventually, I can get you to 1 to 2 hours a month.
Yeah.
But for the first 6 months, I usually tell people it'll take 1 to 2 hours a week of budgeting and, cleaning up stuff and researching things so that you can get your finances on autopilot. So starting today, I'm telling all of y'all, I'll give you a prime example. This past week, there was a meeting. It wasn't this one because I'm here, obviously. But there was another meeting where I was like, I don't really want to go. I don't know why I said yes to this. And so I was like, we're canceling.
Mm-hmm.
And that just gave me 4 hours back.
Yeah.
In my life this week that I'm going to instead use to be able to do some of the stuff I said about, revamping my my business and also focusing on some of my health goals. So today, this is your sign, y'all. If you ever get this feeling in your stomach that you're like, you're going to this meeting, I'm like, I'm going because I feel like I have to, really question that. And then reallocate that time towards something that is going to move your finances forward this week.
I love it. I love it. That is a very powerful point. Essentially saying no. Like, a lot of people have problems saying no. Maybe some people pleasing stuff is going there, but the fact that you can audit that calendar, you help them, and they're able to say no to the things they don't need to do, but say yes to the things that they need to do is very, very, very powerful.
Mm-hmm. I'll just give you a quick little. Since we're here in Las Vegas, I had mentioned to you before we got on the recording that my aunt and uncle live here.
Yeah.
And they're in retirement, and they're like, we just see each other all the time. Like, yes, we'll do anything you want to do. And so they're so sweet. They're like, you want to have coffee and tea, and you want to do this or whatever. And I had to say to them, hey, we'll go to see Australian Bee Gees,
Mhm.
which I highly recommend, y'all. It was actually a really lovely show. If you love disco. And but then they were like, oh, have coffee or tea afterwards. And I was like, I want to do that, but like they're asking me at 9:00 at night, and I already know I can't be drinking coffee at 9:00 at night or
Right.
whatever. And so, we said, hey, let's reallocate this time, for something else. And then my aunt, she was curious about all these things that we were doing. I'm like, hey, do you want to come with us to do some of these errands? And I know that sounds boring, but for her, she's like always curious about what me and AJ are doing, especially because she knows I'm a financial expert. So I was
Yep.
like, hey, you want to go to Costco? You want to see how much I spent at Costco? And she was like, yes, I do. I was like, I'll show you the best products at Costco. And so thinking about how you can also, I will say this, is that you'll be surprised at how many people will want to go on this financial journey with you on the boring things.
Yeah.
So some of my best friends are ones who I budget with. They're the ones who I'll run errands with. Instead of like going out for drinks, like we'll go out for a walk in the park instead. And so you can really double up your time on things that help your wealth and your health at the same time.
I love it. I love it. Well, before we close, let's plant today's seed of wisdom. Crushing your money goals is less about how much you make and more about how much you believe change is possible. So you could just start with one small step, and that's tracking your spending, setting a savings target, or saying no to those unnecessary purchases. Because freedom just doesn't happen overnight, but every choice that you make, it plants a seed toward a life of peace, of purpose, and of possibility. So, man, I don't want to end this, but we know you're a very, very busy person. You have a lot of things to say yes and no to.
That's right.
And before we go again, we just want to thank you for joining us. You could be literally anywhere in the world, being a world traveler. But you came here and you just gave us so many financial gems, so many financial wisdom. We thank you for being here. So I know a lot of you guys will love this episode. You know, we may have to run this back next season, right? We are just very, very blessed to have you here, Bernadette. And before we leave, please tell us more about where we can find you, where we can potentially order these books. Again, she's been a treasure for this episode. So we just want to just help support you. Where can we find you? Where can we support what you're doing?
Well, thank you so much. And I have just, you don't know this, but you inspired me so much when you came up to me and said, hey, you know, I went to your last talk and we actually implemented things. That made me feel so happy. I was like, oh, well, you know, my life is worth it, you know? So thank you for giving that back to me. So if you want to learn more about how to crush your money goals, the book is available at crushyourmoneygoals.com alongside a lot of the other programs and stuff that we run. It's also at your local library, so go check it out there. We have it on audiobook too, and it's anywhere you buy books. But if you go through our website, we'll also give you an option to do a course with us and get a signed copy of the book. And then if you are not ready to invest in that yet, we also have, if you go to crushyourmoneygoals.com/free guide, I created a whole workbook that you can just start out absolutely free.
Nice, nice. Well, there you have it. Again, we thank you, Bernadette, for being here with us. For everybody who is already subscribed, we thank you. But if this was your very first time, please like, subscribe, share, comment. We need you to hit the plus button, hit the bell, whatever that is. We need your help to continue to bring people like Bernadette Joy here on this podcast. For those who follow us on social media, thank you again. But if you're not following us, please follow us on all of our social media accounts. And we want you to share this with essentially everyone you know. This was an amazing episode. We love what we're doing, but we cannot do this without you. So to all those families out there, we thank you. Continue to keep planting those seeds. My name is JimDre, and we will see all of y'all next week.
The Financial Seeds podcast is powered by Silver State Schools Credit Union. Hosted by JimDre Westbrook, co-hosted by Brianna Chavez, produced by Leandre Fox, and created in the Scott A. R. Kills production studio. The Financial Seeds podcast is for informational and educational purposes only and is not intended as financial, legal, or tax advice. All opinions expressed are those of the hosts and guests and do not necessarily reflect the views of Silver State Schools Credit Union. Listeners should consult with a qualified financial professional for advice specific to their individual situation.